Hello and a very warm welcome to all of you. I am Shweta Daya from Sabayu and I'm the moderator for today's session. And I'm really glad to welcome all of you on behalf of AFA and Samayu. Today's session is on building alliances with other movements for more interconnected and holistic food system work. This session is important because no one today can deny that we live in an interconnected world, and some of the most widely acknowledged issues that face modern societies today, such as climate change, other environmental issues such as pollution, increased suffering of marginalized and oppressed group, public health, animal health, loss of biodiversity, unequal access to food, and inefficient food systems. I mean, all these are deeply interconnected. And if we are to solve these issues, we have to explore the interconnections or intersections between them and look for the collective good of animals, that is, animal, people, and planet. This is where building alliances with other movements become critical. Reflecting this thought, in today's session, we have three speakers representing experiences from both outside and within the farm animal movements. And we hope that this session lays a vision for our future where allyship becomes an important organizational tool in the social impact sector and is integrated into the work of animal protection organization so that holistic, impactful, and long-lasting solutions can emerge. With this, let me introduce our speakers of the day. So, our first speaker is Ms. Madhavi Kolte. She is the co-founder and co-director of Jeeva Bhavna, based in Pune, Maharashtra, India. Jeeva Bhavna is a pan-Indian solution-based NGO whose mission is to study the deleterious effects of animal-based agriculture in India and to assist farmers in their transition to organic plant-based agriculture in order to create sovereign and sustainable food system where all life is respected and thrives. Now, our second speaker is Mr. Mahesh Pandya. So, Mr. Mahesh Pandya is the director and editor at bi-monthly magazine Paryavaran Mitra and is the observer at UNFCCC and UNEP. He also received a special consultative status of UN ECOSOC and has done a number of public interest litigation at High Court, Supreme Court, and NGT. His goal is to support and mobilize communities at the local level, guiding them to access control and manage the resources in a healthy fashion. Now, a third speaker is Miss Manisha Singh. So, actually, Manisha has a wide experience working across operations, research, campaigning in the corporate world, and civil society. She has led several movements building initiative for animal advocacy in India. Her past assignments have endorsed a strong belief in the power of collaboration and building strong grassroots movements in order to change existing narratives and cause systemic transformation. She dreams of an ethical green planet in which all species live sustainably. This was all about our speakers. Now, please note that after our speaker finish their respective talks, we will have a question and answer session. So please keep posting any questions, comments, or feedback that you have and you would like to ask to our speakers in the chat box. And we'll choose the relevant ones and try to answer as many questions as possible. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Madhavi Kolte to please share your perspective on building alliances with other movements for more interconnected and holistic food system work. Over to you, Madhavi.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. And thank you, Shweta, for having me here today to share my experience. Although I see that my fellow speakers have a wide experience in whatever they've been doing so far. I'm relatively new, but I think any experience is valuable for us at the stage we are in right now. I also apologize because I don't have a presentation today, but I hope I'll be able to do justice in taking up this opportunity and sharing experience as an individual and as a co-founder of the organization Jeeva Bhavna. So to let you all know a little more about how this journey started for me, because it's relevant to the way these connections develop. I have been an artist and I have been an environmentalist for years. But when I learned about animal exploitation and about the vegan movement, I did do activism for animals for a short period. And then very soon I learned about the climate crisis. And obviously, the immediate reaction for me was to reach out to the environmental community and, of course, to the artist community. But to my disappointment, they were absolutely not interested in knowing what I was doing or, what I was trying to tell them. And that's how I realized that we have to use different narratives for different sets of people. Coming to the topic of which Talkie asked to speak about is building alliances to build a holistic food system. I think we all agree, and Shweta just mentioned that our food system is having multifaceted impacts on our lives, and especially the current climate and health crisis are the most direct impacts we are facing, but also problems like economic crisis and wars and loss of livelihoods or poverty. They are all manifestations of the current exploitative food system. And that's why it is evident that in order to reach our objective of setting up a fair and holistic food system, the only way is to identify and penetrate the diverse movements around us. So, to bring together the dedicated experts, yes, we must call them dedicated because everyone is working relentlessly and hard in their areas to make the difference, and activists and professionals. And again, I'd like to bring drive back to the point that when I learned about the effects of animal agriculture, I tried to reach out to leaders from various movements. So they were social activists, they were environmentalists, they were health professionals, educational institutions. It all started by organizing a screening for Cowspiracy, which was graciously supported by FIAPO. I think Meghna was there yesterday, but it was a very failed attempt. And in fact, there was outrage, when these facts were brought before them, especially because veganism has been perceived as an alien concept, a Western concept in India, especially because of the brainwashing of thinking of cow as the Go Mata, as it's said in India, and the worship of Lord Krishna and all these things. So they're completely conditioned into not taking into account the true facts, basically. So bringing facts through documentaries like Cowspiracy didn't hold any water because there's no India-specific facts or data. But as we all may agree again, I think we all have been through these stages, the 3 stages of truth, being ridiculed in the first stage and then violently opposed, and then, of course, the facts being self-evident. And I can say from my own personal experience that I'm at the 3rd stage of the facts being accepted as being self-evident. And another important learning for me, of course, was to maintain the respect for intersectionality and the interconnectedness, especially to get people on board, because India being a country of diverse religions and cultures, I had to learn and take lessons from people to not maintain a narrative which will hurt anybody or point fingers at anybody. And also, I realized that my mission, from my own understanding, from my own experience, was to bridge the gap between the environmental movement and the vegan movement, because the environmental movement wasn't ready to accept the facts about animal exploitation or the environmental impacts. And the vegan movement was very attached to the ethical aspect, which is true. We all are ethical vegans, but we have to understand a true vegan lifestyle is successful when we have the least impact, or we cause the least hurt to any living being or our soil or environment and so forth. So as Shweta has introduced our organization, we are an abolitionist vegan environmental NGO. And yes, we are solutions-based because we just can't keep talking about the problem. We have to give solutions for people to get on board. And we realize that our food system is at fault, and that is the grassroots level work we need to do. And working with farmers is important, especially because they're stuck in this exploitative system. There are subsidies which are provided for animal-based food, but there is no support provided for natural farming practices. And of course, this will help them become independent in their access to nutrition dense food, and it will provide respect for all life on this planet. So we created this umbrella organization which seeks expertise from individual organizations for the beneficiaries who are looking for solutions for their problems. So this is how we function as facilitators between the experts and the beneficiaries. Um, while doing this, we launched our flagship project with a farmer in Pandharpur, which is in central Maharashtra and central India. It is called Urvarasa. That is, it's a Sanskrit word which means procuring fertile soil. Now, we have constantly maintained a parallel narrative so that we are not getting into all the nitty-gritties of the vegan movement and getting into all the justifications related to that, which I will explain slowly. But this, thankfully, we already have this natural farming practice, which is well established in India for over last 3 decades. It is pioneered by a senior farming scientist named Shri Subhashparkar, and it is called the Subhashparkar natural farming model, which incidentally has been recognized by the United Nations as the most effective farming practice to mitigate the effects of climate change and provide food security. And I think as any common person would understand, or as a matter of fact, common sense, if you're doing farming, raising crops the natural way, it's obvious that you're not going to interfere with the rearing of animals. It's going to be, their existence is going to be natural. There's not going to be any artificial interventions in their existence on this planet. And we have launched this project with some specific guidelines where the farmer becomes the caretaker of the animals. Now, I say this because India has the largest livestock population in the world, and it's always the case that animals are there on the farms, and there is no, it's very rare that we'll find farms without animals. So the guidelines are framed in such a way that we take the farmers in confidence about the animals. We tell them you're the caretakers of the animals, and you will treat them like a family members, and no breeding and no milking of these animals. We explain to them the economic aspect, and so that they don't lose more money while taking care of the animals and save the natural resources on their farms for better crops on the farms. And then they become caretakers of the ecosystem. They rejuvenate the soil, and the practices help the water tables rise. And also they become caretakers of the family members by ensuring they have a kitchen garden on their farm, so that they get access to nutritionally dense food, and that's a solution to the malnutrition they're facing today. And most important way of getting them on board is by directly connecting them to the consumer, so that there is this trust-based connection between the consumer and the farmer, and there is no middleman who takes away the profits, and the farmer earns a decent livelihood. He's fairly compensated, so it is like fair trade. And so this is one end of the spectrum, and the other end of the spectrum is working with the consumer. So we have partnered with other fellow organizations through which we are overseeing the establishing the market for these farmers to ensure they get to sell the produce to the people in the cities. And for this, we educate the buyers about the importance of natural and ethical produce, and consuming healthy and nutritionally dense food, as well as live waste-free lifestyle, and get involved in these projects to by becoming buyers to create a positive feedback loop for the farmers. So in this process, we're actually transitioning them to buying more food, plant-based food, and also learning about the exploitation of animals, and along with that, exploitation of the environment and the farmers, and of course, with the diseases increasing, exploitation of the citizens themselves. And so, interestingly, in this process, we have been able to build alliances with organizations that are working with welfare of farmers or with soil and water conservation, like we are doing with a foundation called Punarbharan Foundation from the same city as we belong to, Pune. Then we have built an alliance with Afforestation Group, which is giving away free saplings to raise forests across India. And then we have built alliance with corporates like Cummins, who are giving us funds to do some small projects on the farm. And most importantly, we are building alliances with the farming community, which is really the most important factor here. And when we connect with them, we don't directly talk to them about animal exploitation or the environmental problems or the health problems. It's not something which they're going to understand, because these are marginalized farmers. These are farmers which are having land less than 2 acres. Their only requirement is to get 2 square meals for the day. And if they're able to sustain themselves fairly daily and live a respectable life, that's enough for them. So we talk to them about the basic requirements they need on the farm, which is water, because water is becoming very scarce now. And then we slowly lead them to introspect about the water consumption pattern, which are the sectors where they're consuming. And then they themselves come to realize that livestock is taking in a lot of water. And of course, we have been able to build alliances within the vegan movement as well, getting the SAVE movement to promote our initiative, and with other health related organizations like Sharan India, and individual doctors like Dr. Rupa Shah, and there are more to come for sure. So what I want to say is that we have worked with farmers, but there is a lot of potential, knowing the multiple impacts animal agriculture is having in the field of malnutrition, finding solutions to malnutrition. One needs to penetrate there. Then the women's empowerment programs and marginalized communities, or programs related to diseases, and many such things. And to the extent that on my personal level, I've also tried, working with small groups, community groups in cities where they are struggling with water supply or trees protection in their own communities, where when you start a dialogue about these basic requirements and environmentally scarce resources, we have to guide them into thinking what is the human activity which is making the most impact, and what they have been informed about and what they don't know, basically. So I would say the winning strategy would be engaging these individuals or organizations from the perspective they are working on, put ourselves in their shoes and understand how they're thinking, and gradually guide them into introspecting on, what is the biggest factor that needs to be looked into. We did surveys with dairy farmers, and they are so unaware of the unviability, economic unviability of their dairy practice. But when we did the survey of asking how many cattle they have and how much water they need and how much they spend on the food and all these things, they started really introspecting, and it really cleared out their minds about what they should be doing. And we advise them to focus more on their crops instead of the dairy, so that they are not exploited of the resources and of course themselves. And the other ways is when they are communicating, not to use the we word, because really in India it's very misunderstood, and we already have our traditionally or culturally known lifestyle based on ahimsa, which probably has been the inspiration for a vegan movement. And again, instead of using the word vegan, we prefer to explain it as true shakahari, because shak is plant-based. And what we are actually practicing right now is ovo-lacto-vegetarianism and not vegetarianism. So these are very small. I don't know whether my inputs are very unique, but this is honestly my experience as an organization of what we have so far achieved in these 2.5 years, and as a very small team actually of penetrating various movements and trying to build a stronger holistic food system. Yeah, thank you. I hope I've been able to contribute. Thank you so much.
So thank you so much, Madhvi. And I think we all can relate whatever you have just said. And I think it's truly valuable what you shared about bringing together dedicated activists, professionals, and you talked about the challenges also you faced. So now I would like to invite our next speaker, Miss Manisha. So over to you, Manisha.
Thank you so much, Shweta, and thank you, Madhvi, for that lovely, first talk on this topic. I think the perspectives that you have shared are, really relevant, and they're very grounded in the work that you do. Speaking about the grassroots organizations that you interact with. What I'm going to do now in my talk is to take it to a broader, more philosophical, more strategic, thinking perspective. And hopefully we can have on whenever our next speaker joins in, we can also learn from some perspectives from outside the movement. But to start with, I'm going to reiterate some of these things. Please bear with me as I talk about this. I know we've heard enough about it, but I just like to kind of reiterate these points because I think that no amount of repetition is unrequired as far as, the issues that we face today. The more we talk about them, the more we are able to spread the message out there. So I'm just going to start with saying that in Asia and globally, we have finally, started acknowledging the unsustainability of our existing food systems. The topic today is building alliances in the context of food systems. So, climate change, food insecurity, species extinction, biodiversity losses, farmed animal exploitation, pandemics, public health, and the related disproportionate impact of these on marginalized communities because of gender, race, caste, color, and economic status are all things that I'm familiar with in the animal liberation movement and also in other social impact movements that work on these issues. But these are just very small part of a long list of interconnected and intersecting food systems issues that we have started waking up to in Asia and globally. And this awakening, I think, is yet to find expression in our public and policy realms, especially for Asian countries. So before considering winning strategies for building alliances, let's look at why they are required. Why do we need, such strong alliances for food systems work? And, I work with Samayu, where we have brought together organizations that are doing commendable work in environment, biodiversity conservation, community engagement, public health, animal protection, farming transitions, and social equity. We have 25 partners on board currently and building many more. And we're all uniting under the common goal of net positive benefits for animals, people, and the planet, even as we address food system issues together. As we built up Samayu over the last 1 year, we have interacted with more than 200 plus NGOs, many more individual experts and practitioners through one-on-one conversations, leadership convenings, many of which we did online. Madhvi was part of them, some of them, and also an in-person convening that we did in July earlier this year. And it is abundantly clear to us that there is immense power in broad-based alliance movements. When we authentically advocate the interests of other social impact movements, we acknowledge the complex identities that individuals and organizations have in modern societies. And I think we cannot hope to achieve lasting change and cause real impact if we ignore these social identities and work in isolation. Broad-based alliances for sustainability and equity in food systems also have many advantages for pro-animal movements. In addressing environmental, social, and public health issues, we find common ground with other social impact organizations. When we build such alliances, we move the conversation beyond the obvious, animal interest groups and networks, and thereby we gain access to new audiences who are also equally concerned about planetary and people health. We are able to bring together more individuals and organizations to unite under commonly identified causes. And we can all say that there is obviously strength in numbers. We facilitate understanding the intersections in food systems, and we enable a holistic systems level approach, which is necessary for sustained change, considering how complex food systems are. Coalitions and alliances provide access also to a diverse range of resources and skill sets that can help both individual members and the alliance become more effective. They create more impact and meaning because of newer perspectives and real-time feedback that we can share with each other. Such sharing fosters innovation and taking concerted action for the collective good of animals, people, and the planet. It increases knowledge through education and awareness, resulting in nuanced actions that are more informed and more contextually aware. So with this, establishing the need for such broad-based alliances, I have thought about structuring the strategies that we think, in Samayu can help build successful alliances into 7 points, actually, 7 major strategies. The first is finding closely aligned sectors to build alliances with. So before we start the movement building work, we have to think about which are these closely aligned sectors that can help us build effective alliances. At Samayu, our objective has always been to mainstream animal rights and farm animal issues in public and policy discourse. So we research food systems, especially in the Indian context, to find sectors that are closely aligned to the issues prevalent in animal agriculture in India. It was not surprising that environment, climate change, public health, from a One Health perspective, and social equity, especially for farming communities, came out as the top 3 items. So environment, public health, more in the context of One Health, and then social equity, especially from a farmer's angle. We published 3 white papers on each of these topics. So now that we had identified the allied sectors that we needed to work with in food systems, we set about finding the right audience and stakeholders. So this is the second strategy that I'm now talking about. We spent considerable time thinking through what kind of audience, which stakeholders would be most willing to contribute and help us make maximum impact. To enable collaboration, we understood that these stakeholders must recognize their position as part of a larger ecosystem, one in which all actors influence each other and their environment, one in which they collaborate, share, and create resources, and also adapt to emerging challenges and jointly lead ambitious efforts to transform the sector. Thirdly, we identified impactful areas of focus. Through numerous discussions, dialogues, conversations, we looked at where are those areas that we can collectively bring about real-time and tangible impact. So our partners and stakeholders have co-created all our campaigns to adopt a broad range of issues and concerns, even as we agree on focus areas. And therefore, while we are sharpening our focus, it also reflects the diversity and interests of our partners. Our 4 campaigns are, for example, focused on One Health, aquaculture, economic climate resilience, and diversification for farming communities. And the 4th one is on outreach with policymakers and consumers. As a 4th strategy, we included animal impact and prioritized animal concerns everywhere. This is because we know that if we don't talk about animals and insist on including them in all our narratives, as indeed we have to for holistic systems change to be successful, no one else will. And in a world that is increasingly disconnected from nature and animals, we have to recognize that we have to correct these imbalances through food system alliances. They should be able to recognize how such inclusive approaches to animals, people, and planet will lend success to their own program goals and make their individual mandates more impactful, something similar to the narrative work that Madhavi touched upon in her talk earlier. In the 5th point, authentically paying attention to the needs of all alliance members. In fact, the success of such alliances will also largely depend on how we have been able to ensure that other social impact goals and needs of organizations from other movements are met, even as we ensure animal welfare and animal interests and rights are included everywhere. The whole point of a coalition or alliance is to give equal space to everyone's agendas and needs. So every member of the alliance feels that it's a common goal that we are working towards, even as their other own individual mandates are respected and supported. Our 6th strategy was mutual trust, building mutual trust through intersectional conversations and relationship building. A crucial strategy for success success is our investment in building a trust-based process so that every ideology, viewpoint, way of thinking is accepted and encouraged. This is possible when we have a deep understanding of the intersections and interconnections in our allied areas of work and are able to bring back the conversation to these points when conflicts surface. We can then speak about animals as well in ways that are accepted because the focus is on intersections and that we are all in this together for a common cause. We are continually building Samayu to become a trust-based platform that facilitates organizations and people to engage on common points of intersection, interconnections, and interests, collectively benefiting animals, people, and the planet. And our investment in relationship building has definitely helped us and remains a cornerstone of our strategy for building and sustaining alliances for food systems work. And finally, the seventh strategy we adopted was ensuring tangible value add to each member in addition to the coalition or alliance goals. The tangible value is in terms of a diverse range of resources such as skill sets, funds, and networking that adds value to each partner's journey. At Samayu, our partners have also called out education and awareness building, knowledge enhancements through sharing of differing and new perspectives, connections with multidisciplinary stakeholders as important value adds from the convenings that we have held so far and the continuous dialogues that we keep having with them. These were the 7 strategies that I wanted to cover in the first part of my talk. And now I'll move on to what are the challenges that we have faced. And I'm kind of dividing the second part of my talk into 2 sections. First, I will talk about the 5 challenges that we have already faced and are currently experiencing, and 2 that we anticipate in the future. Not to say that the 5 challenges will not continue. They will, but then we're yet to, because of, I think, how young Samayu is as a platform, I think there are 2 challenges that we can anticipate in future as well. One of the very first challenges we addressed at Samayu is how do we make the work that we do specific and tangible? Intersectional and interdisciplinary alliances can be quite abstract. I'm sure you'll agree, because the broad-based nature of such alliances. And food systems are so complex, the enormous breadth of the value chains they constitute, the complex political, social, economic, and ethical factors involved, the multiple intersections that come up as a result can seem quite intimidating to address. Our focus from the beginning has been to unpack this complexity. Our activator methodology brings organizations and individuals on one platform so we can simplify these interconnections through partnerships and design campaigns that deliver real-time, tangible impact. The second challenge is that we are all on this journey together and are in many ways still weaving our paths, even as we work on net positive benefits for animals, people, and the planet. But currently, our destinations, our ideology, and goals could be in different places. So while the journey being the same can be a challenge, it can also be a winning strategy. The ability to collaborate on the journey will what will make a difference. If we strengthen each other's journeys through exploring our interconnections and intersections, we can be way more effective, since otherwise we are just functioning in silos as independent minority groups. The third challenge is a common one in broad-based alliances that we in Samayu also need to continually keep exploring and working on. And this is about having a common language, maybe articulated as a common glossary that ensures that we are all in sync. We believe that the very process of evolving such a glossary will help us make our objectives more coherent and will strengthen the alliance. It will bring us closer together as we evolve clarity and build common narratives about where we are heading through this shared language. In building this common language and narratives, we must ensure that they are positive and respectful of differences and do not reinforce systemic inequities towards either animals or people. Our language will ideally reflect the new reality that Samayu platform hopes to construct, building a just, fair world for animals, people, and the planet. The fourth challenge is very well recognized for our kind of work, raising funding and general support. Everyone fundamentally understands, but is hesitant because they want quick action and quick results. Since we are bringing about social change by coming together, our work is by definition long-term and difficult to quantify. This can be especially challenging when raising funds, And research is often an area that suffers the most for lack of funding. There is growing consensus on the need for integrated research with a food systems lens, analyzing and exploring regenerative practices, healthy diets, just livelihood transitions, impact of animal agriculture on public health, animal and planetary health, and of course, the interlinkages between them. Funding for these research priorities is extremely difficult to obtain, but is sorely needed to understand and support food systems transformation. And in this context, mobilizing public funds and getting governments to repurpose food and agriculture budgets to address the environmental, climate change, social, health, nutrition-related issues with animal agriculture is a continuous struggle. However, we must define success as being persistent and being consistent in our efforts to mobilize the considerable amount of public funds with governments everywhere so that holistic food systems work can happen. And finally, the fifth challenge is engaging partners, getting them to contribute and be involved in the campaigns. If done effectively, it becomes a major strength for the Alliance. Since alliances have diverse members with different levels of skill sets and expertise, they can be great value add in building the capacities of our partners who might be at different levels of understanding. So regular communication through the length of the campaign, other planned activities, and regular meetups can also help build the engagement. So at Samayu, we are planning such meetups, events, and campaigns that can be led by our partner community and mobilize membership, keeping in mind the needs of our community. And now I come to the last two, which is really the future challenges we anticipate at Samayu. Today is Samayu's 1-year anniversary. And this session today has been a great looking back and affirmation of our achievements over the last 1 year, even as we look towards many more milestones and challenges to come. I think in future, we will also face challenges as we drive our campaigns within the culture of participatory, grounds-up leadership that we advocate. We are bound to have situations where, due to our focus on tangible outcomes, we might have time constraints that challenge the imperative of such participative decision-making models. We hope that at such times, our common glossary, language, and collective goals will help resolve conflicts and maintain the integrity of our collective approach and desired culture. That we will always have an inclusive approach with a plurality of voices in our decision-making. Over a period of time, we intend to institutionalize multi-level decision-making into the very fabric of our campaigns, modeling a system of governance that we hope will get reflected into wider food systems government structures. Another possible future challenge is evolving monitoring and evaluation methods that enable us to measure the effectiveness of the social changes that we are aiming for, especially in the long term. Measuring the effectiveness of alliances as well for their efficiency, advocacy, increased reach, and comparative advantage they provide over individual action can be complex but necessary. This is where a focus on new ways of effective documentation and reporting processes might be critical at all levels of collaboration and across all functions of the alliances we create. And now I will conclude. I know I've taken a long time talking about abstract concepts, but I just want to conclude by saying that building a strong community and partner base with the right strategic fit, shared leadership, strong relationship building, common language and frames of reference, participatory governance, continuous and meaningful engagement, documenting effectiveness of the alliance and its objectives are some ways to build successful alliances. However, the true success of food systems alliances will be when we are able to ground our work in the minds and hearts of the directly impacted communities, what Madhvi was referring to earlier, when we work with the communities. Participatory, empowering them with grounds-up participatory multi-level governance structures, even as we integrate the interests of animals and nature into mainstream narratives for food systems transformation. Thank you so much for providing me this platform. And with this, I'm now passing it on to Shweta. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Manisha. The points you made about key winning strategies and, when building alliances with other movements and how these apply specifically for food systems were truly valuable. And, the strategies you shared with us, I mean, it's really great to have you here with us today. And we hope that, as we progress further, we'll continue to learn from your experiences and other things. So now I would like to request Mr. Mahesh Pandya to please take over the session and please continue with your speech, sir. Over to you.
Namaskar, Shweta. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, due to the technical error, I could not able to join earlier, but it's okay now. So the subject is very good. That is the integrated approach about food security and all. So we all know, and Manisha and Madhu already told about. But even though, in simple way, I can say the food is connected with land and water. So today, what is happening about the land? Because land is a limited resources, and which kind of land we are using. So we earlier the huge amount of land are for the agriculture, but now today few parts of the land are using for the agriculture, and the food basically is coming from the agricultural land. Not only food but animal food like milk. So agriculture and animal husbandry both are connected together. So today what happened is we have taken away the grazing land where the common pasture land is there, where the animals, those who do not have a farms, the farmless laborers or farmless kind of animal keepers, they are taking their animal to the agricultural uh, grazing land. But now there is no grazing land because of the urbanization and industrialization. So there is a great threat about the milk production also. And artificial milk is available, synthetic milks and all, but which is harmful to our health and all. But and the requirement of the milk is increasing. So we cannot detach the milk food and the agriculture food, grains and all. So the another thing is water is also the important issue. So water is there, but how our water is like recently then parliamentary questions, the most of our rivers are polluted. If I'm talking about the Gujarat, then Gujarat the 22 rivers are critically polluted, and river Sabarmati is like dead river. So the water of the river is contaminated, is polluted, and which also damage to the our crops, and our directly impact on our health, human health and animal health both. So it is a very serious issue. So if we are talking about the food security, then we must have to talk about the industrial pollution, because due to the industrial pollution, the untreated effluent directly going to the rivers and ponds and surface water, and which is damage over the agriculture and the food quality, and also the decrease in the food production. So that is also a big issue. Now the another issue is like I will brief you, not going to detail because you all know about the detailing, but just I'm brainstorming about my topic is we are doing the illegal sand mining. After the monsoon season, there is need to remove some 1 feet of this carried by runoff, this dust, I mean stone or goods or whatever. So need to be mining. But now today we are doing a huge amount of sand mining across the country. And what happen is, so runoff rate is increasing. Whatever the capacity of retaining water of the river is now lost. So whatever the water is coming is directly going to the ocean, sea, and also the flood is coming. Then the sand is a major role to obstacle the flood. I mean to control the flood, and that is why the water is also going to be recharged. But now, after the sand mining, the water is directly going to the sea and also damage a lot. So the agriculture is affected very much. And if agriculture is affected, naturally our food security is also on threat side. The another issue I would like to highlight is now I welcoming the Prime Minister's this statement that to create a 75 ponds in each district of India. That is very good. But what is happening about the existing pond? Most of the ponds are reclaiming by the builders lobby or by the infrastructure and all, and most of the ponds are not there. And our haphazard planning of the urban, the storm water, natural storm water way is obstacle. So most of the ponds are there, but they are not fulfilled by the rainwater. So rainwater stored somewhere else, and the pond is remain the empty. So this is the also a false system of our planning and all, in the name of the artificial lake or the beautification of lake and all. We are avoiding or we are obstacling to stream water in this. So without the ponds, there is also a problem on the agriculture and the food security. This is also a major problem. Now, another thing is we are having a across the country, we have a small dam, medium dam, and big dam. But most of the dams, we are not doing the desilting. Desilting is the important mechanism to store the capacity of the water in the dam. But I am talking about the Gujarat. In the month of the September, this time more than 103 dams are overflowed. Uh, Next year, 53 dams overflow. Now the storage capacity of dams is getting reduced because we are not doing the desilting. If we do the desilting, then the silting material can be used in the as a fertilizer or as a fertile soil into the farms to increase our crops or the food and all. But today, unfortunately, we are not desilting the small dam or medium dam or large dam. So that is why the purpose of the dam is now diluted. So this is also a major issue of this. With the industrial pollution or industrial wastewater contamination overall the water. So another issue is like sewage water. Of course, some states do not have a kind of industries, so not industrial pollution. But in most of our towns and cities, we do not have a sewage treatment plant. We are directly untreated sewage discharging into our water bodies or the rivers. And that is why also our food system or food, the quality of the food, our quality of the agriculture is, reducing or damaged. So this is all the issue about the uh, agriculture, food, and water. Now, the next year, our Indian government is going to be celebrate the millet year 2023. So that is very good step. That millet is a very good food grain for the our health and all. But there is a millet, where the seeds of the millet. And the millet is useful when the agriculture, organic agriculture is there. If we are using the chemical and chemical fertilizer and hybrid seeds, then it's a meaningless the millet. So gradually we have to turn into the organic farming, not overnight. In one district of the Gujarat, the government declared the organic district, but the farmers are in trouble because overnight they declare this thing, so they are not getting the urea and other chemical fertilizer and all. So overnight cannot function organic farming. It will take a time. So phase wise, you have to remove the chemical and hybrid and all. But if you are celebrating the millet year or you are switch over the organic farming, so overnight it cannot be happen. So gradually it should be happen. So this is the also issue. So it's also threat on the this thing. Number of the land movement is going on in the country. So the land movement is only for this the food security and the livelihood of the people. Agriculture, the farmers' agitation is also going on, and we have to listen them. We have to dialogue with the agriculture farmers. We have to dialogue with the those who are the agitating about the land with them, because these all issues are connected with the food security. But we are department wise, we are seeing not in integrated way. So we have to see the integrated way about the land agitation, or the agriculture agitation, or the farmers agitations, or even the fishermen agitation. Because we are talking about the food, the fisheries and all, we cannot ignore them. And it should be an integrated approach. If we remove the food security threat, then we have also to encourage the seafood also. Uh, if you are only talking about the vegetable food or the grains, then which will not fulfill whatever the food security in this global warming era is. So we have holistically understand about the food security problems, is connected with the irrigation, is connected with the water storage, is connected with the land, is connected with the livelihood of the people, and all. So when we are doing the urbanization, we are not thinking about the what happened to the agricultural land and all that. And we are acquiring the grazing land. We are also not taking care of what happened to the animals and milk production. So overall, that's a good success we will choose on that particular day. And that is my short, brief brainstorming about the subject. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mahesh, for sharing these insightful things with us. I mean, we really appreciate. And now, so actually, thank you, everyone. You know, all the three speakers. It was an excellent discussion. And now we have some questions from our participants, from our viewers. So, which I would like to ask you all. So, the first question is for all our speakers, and the question is, connecting stakeholders from such many sectors is a big task and require huge resources. What are your strategies to overcome this challenge? Uh, Manisha, Madhvi, would you
Okay,
like
sure.
to answer this question?
Yes, I can go first. Madhvi, or would you like to? Okay, all right. So I have, of course, in my discussion earlier, spoken about how funding is always a challenge, and at different aspects of coalition building and alliance building, and of course, getting stakeholders together, arranging for those convenings are also points. I'm relating this question to that, where you need resources. But I would disagree with the statement that connecting a large amount of stakeholders requires a huge amount of resources. I think it's just the way we strategically address it. And we have a very, very small team at Samayu. When we started, we were an incredibly small team, and most of our work for building and engaging with stakeholders, bringing them together, is thanks to the Samayu community, where we have a large volunteer base. So I think one of the things that we did not speak about is building this base of volunteers, right? Being able to identify people who connect and resonate with what you want to do, and being able to attract them in ways that help them express, like giving them self-expression. Because a lot of the times the people are there, they just don't know how to channel their energies, how to channel their skills into spaces which they resonate with. And I think by leveraging that, by being able to build a strong volunteer base, by having internships, we have had an amazing group of interns from the time that Samayu started. We've had amazing people who've done consulting with us, and we've been able to kind of, I think, through this mixing of perspectives, through bringing in many people at different points of time, we've also been able to do innovative things with a very limited, small amount of resources. Also, because we are now so comfortable working remotely, we're so comfortable having online interactions, the power of in-person meetings and in-person conversations cannot be denied. We all know that. But then we are also now comfortable with having online conversations, with meeting people online, like the Zoom meeting that we're doing right now. And this helps us. I think technology, leveraging the right kind of technology also helps in addressing this challenge of how do you draw multiple stakeholders. We have channels like Slack, which are, the free versions are available today, where a lot of project work can happen. We take advantage of that in Samayu. So I think building a large volunteer base to help with the human resources part of it, leveraging technology to help in spreading the message, through remote working, through using appropriate software. These are the ways in which we have handled that challenge. The other way in which the resources questions might play out is mobilizing possibly the money, right? The funding angle that I started with. And I think, yes, that's definitely challenging. That is an area that we need more support, an area where we need philanthropists, we need, other organizations that put money into this sector to see the advantage of, or really to recognize the importance of doing this kind of work, as opposed to just basic service delivery work where you go and rescue an animal in need, or there is a shelter. Those are also important, but there is equal need for funding in such long-term intervention. So that remains a challenge. And yeah, that's I think what I can think of right now. And over to you, Madhvi.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Manisha. From my experience, what I understand is building alliances is, first of all, it's got more to do with changing the way we think and reaching out to people, and that can happen with technology, as you say, which is happening with so much ease and without much costs involved. The challenge really is with the funds when you start implementing the concepts, when you have come together and you're thought of a solution and you want to do it. Like the best example is what we're doing at Urvarasa. We've come up with a concept, but now we do face challenges with setting up a team with some costs involved and other ground level problems. But that again, I treat it as a different area. But to start a dialogue and build coalitions is one important step. And I do believe in things developing organically also. And yeah, that's what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhvi. Thank you, Manisha. So, Mr. Pandya, would you like to add anything else? You are on mute. Mr. Pandya, you are on mute.
Hello. Yes. Resources also limitation from what we are doing. We have a very good NGO networking, and one NGO is working on the land issue, one are on the tribal issue, one on the Dalit issue. So we are do integrated approach. We are having a 3-day or 4-day kind of meeting and all, and try to understand them that how this issue is integrated. The tribal issue is not only the tribal issue, it's a connected with the food security or the Dalit issue or the land issue or the Maldaris issue. These all are connected with the livelihood and the food security issue. So this we are doing, and we are also preparing a social work student or the journalism to create a understanding about the integrated approach of the food security or the livelihood, whatever it is. And what we are doing, I will give you my example. My organization, what we are doing, where the environmental public hearing take place for the industrial clearance, environmental clearance. So all the NGOs are going there and raising the issue. Ultimately, the industrial pollution से और ये जो लैंड ले रहा है इससे फूड सिक्योरिटी थ्रेट है. तो ये सब इकट्ठा आवाज उठाते हैं कि भाई इट्स अ थ्रेट ऑन द फूड सिक्योरिटी, इज अ थ्रेट ऑन द एग्रीकल्चर और लेबर्स का भी खलास हो जाएगा काम, और हमारा ये हो जाएगा. तो इस प्रकार से हम लोगों को तैयार करते हैं कि भाई फूड सिक्योरिटी कैसे आपको असर करता है. ये लैंड इश्यू है, फिशरमैन का इश्यू है, या ट्राइबल का इश्यू है, या मलदारिस का इश्यू है. हाउ इट इज अफेक्टेड टू द फूड सिक्योरिटी एंड एग्रीकल्चर. तो ये उसका कनेक्शन है, उसका एक लिंक है, और ये लिंक साथ में हम जब एनवायरमेंटल पब्लिक हियरिंग होती है तब जाते हैं, तब कोई भी इस प्रकार का कुछ मसला आता है गवर्नमेंट की, तो ये सब इकट्ठे होके फिर उसके सामने आवाज उठाते हैं. तो इस प्रकार से हम स्टेक होल्डर जो कंसल्टेशन करते हैं या स्टेक होल्डर को साथ में लेके फूड सिक्योरिटी को बैलेंस रखने का ट्राई कर रहे हैं.
So thank you, Mr. Pandya. Once again, thank you, Manisha, and thank you, Madhvi. So now, actually, Manisha, I have a question for you specifically from one of the participants. So the question is, transiting from human-centric to new concept that human is just a part of the world and we all are interconnected. What resources do you think are the most priority for the short term and the long term?
I think if I've understood the question correctly, it is talking about transitioning from a human-centric model to a more integrated, interdisciplinary model or an intersectional model. And I think the priority there is finding those intersections, is leveraging the power of those intersections. I think what we need to do is when we connect, it's not about moving a conversation away from a human-centric to a planet-centric or to an animal-centric. It's about how do all of these interact with each other, how they intersect, and what are these common points where we can have net positive benefits, for all three constituents. So I think that's where we need to focus our energies on. Can you please repeat the resource part of the question?
Yeah. So it's that what resources do you think are the most priority for the short term and the long term?
Okay, so we just spoke about that, I think, in the earlier question as well, where we and I kind of agreed with both Madhvi and Mahesh, where we were saying that leveraging the power of the intersectional work that we have, leveraging the power of the networks that we have. We are not in this alone. We are, when we form this alliance, when we form a coalition, then we are getting access to this diverse set of resources, diverse skill sets, and diverse connections that each one in the movement has. And that's how we build the power of these collectives and coalitions, right? So our resources just multiply like that. And that's really a very, very strong reason for building alliances.
So thank you, Manisha, for answering this question. Now we'll take a last question for the day, and it's for all our three speakers. So the question is, have our speakers found issues with people or organization being apprehensive about working on similar issues, with organization often wanting to stick strictly in their own focus area work? Do you need to often convince people of the benefits?
Yeah, of course. Can I take it? Sorry, I just came in. Yeah. Yeah. So yes, this is a very common scenario where organizations are very focused on their area of work. In fact, experts at a certain level, they think they know everything and they're not willing to take in any new information. So the least we can do is persistently follow up with them and keep bringing the facts and the data before them. And what I have realized is if they are very true to their principles, then finally they do come on board. We have had that experience, with certain organizations where now they are being receptive and willing to contribute to our project as well, Urvarasat, but there's some which is still keeping a distance. So they are either making some kind of profit from that, the way they're working, or majorly it's concerning, to the same thing. Some benefit has been drawn from the way they're working and which they don't want to detach themselves from. The only way is to keep having a dialogue and of course spread the awareness so that whatever they're doing, the public starts understanding what is the most important or effective thing to do. And it's not like doing the work of this organization absolute, but again, compelling them to look into the facts by the way things are developing around them. Please.
Thank you, Madhvi. Manisha, Mr. Pandya, would you like to add something?
Yes, we have good experience to, with the help of the people, we saved a lot of land. Like one power plant is coming, and they acquired unnecessary land, which is agricultural land. So with the help of the tribal people and agriculture farmers and all, we asked the project proponent, which is a government NTPC power plant, and then they withdrawn the land those were acquired unnecessarily. So some extent, of course, it's help to the food security. There is a number of examples. In some villages, they are acquiring the grazing land without any reason. With the movement of the NGOs and all, we also taken back this grazing land, and ultimately, which will helpful to the food security in terms of crops or in milk production. So that is also a good example that, but nowadays also it is difficult because the government do not want any kind of agitation. And if you are doing the kind of agitation, then they are calling you the urban Naxalite or anti-national or anti-development, something like those. Challenge is there. But if the mass is there, uh, then we can fight it out and get it. So no need to be worry or the threat of this what whoever the government is. But if the strength is there, the networking is there, then definitely you can save your land or the food secure. I mean land or the whatever. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pandya. Manisha?
Yes, I think, Mr. Pandya, Madhvi made some really great points. With concerted action coming together, strength in numbers, there is a lot that we can accomplish for sure. I also think that, it is a continuous process. I mean, there will always be differences amongst people, amongst organizations about how we need to move forward, even what the goals of that alliance and collective need to be. And that is where I think finding those, I keep stressing on that, and I know I may sound repetitive, but it's really about, finding those common areas that we all agree. And when you kind of anchor the discussion back to that one point of intersection, that interconnection that makes sense to all of us, then those, conflicts, then as a result of that, people see reason. We are all in this for social change. And we're therefore then able to align ourselves back to where we need to be, which is that common area. And of course, it's a difficult journey. There is no doubt about it. I think I spoke about this in terms of how even our paths diverge at times. But if we kind of keep out, I mean, destinations, of course, are different. Goals are different. Each organization is in it for different reasons. But if we think that we are in this journey together, even though we may have different paths and we may have different destinations, the journey is a collective journey of all of us moving together in the collective interests of animals, people, and planet. And that's one way to anchor and bring back the discussion and resolve conflicts. And I think there is one very important element that I would like to talk about with threads through all of these questions that we had, which is about identifying champions of change. This came up in our convenings as well, that if we identify the right champions of change, the ones who understand this, at a wider level, broad-based level, then they are the ones that will bring the discussions back to where we need them to be. I mean, one doesn't have to be in this alone. One has to find the right people, the right leaders, the ones with the strategic vision, the ones who understand the broad-based nature of this movement. And therefore, I think, yes, leveraging champions of change can also help resolve conflicts.
So thank you, Manisha. And once again, thank you to all our three speakers. I mean, the way you guys talked about, the interconnectedness of things and the building alliances, it's really great. And thank you, once again, a very thank you to all our participants. And we are really looking forward to your continued support. And, please follow us on social media and do write to us for any further comments or feedback. And I hope that this session was useful and helps lay the groundwork for a future where we collectively work on addressing food system issues with an interconnected, interdisciplinary, and intersectional lens. Building alliances with other movements is truly critical for addressing food system issues. Thank you very much for joining today. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, especially our speakers. We'll see you soon in the next sessions.
Thank you. Bye-bye.